Hi guys, welcome back. In the last session, we understood what is the Docker Compose, why we need to go for Docker Compose, and how to write the Docker Compose file to Dockerize our application. Now here, I'm taking a Spring Boot application with MySQL database. So boot application will run in one container, database will run in another container. And I want to establish the communication between application container and a database container. Two containers we are running, nothing but two machines are running. Container nothing but one virtual machine. We don't create that virtual machine, but Docker is going to create the virtual machine. So you need to assume that database is running in one computer and boot application running in the another computer. This boot application should connect with the database software. So first here, in order to create the two containers, to make our application is up and running, first database container should be created. After database container is created, using the database credentials, our Spring Boot application will connect with the database and the boot application will start. So here I can say my Spring Boot application is dependent on the database container. So that is what we have configured in our Docker Compose file also. So if we see our Docker Compose file, there are 4 sections available in the Compose file. One is version, second one is services, third one is a network, and fourth one is values. Got my point? Right. Now, version, services available, network is available, volumes are available. Now here, services representing how many containers do you want to create. So I want to create two containers. One is application container, another one is the database container. Application container depends on the database container. So here, database should be installed in a container. For that, we are using MySQL image, that is a predefined image available in the Docker library. When the database is installing, we are specifying what should be the password of the database and what should be the database name. Now, so this database username will be root, port number will be 3306 by default. The host name will be MySQL DB. This is the host name of the database. We can say container name. So whatever the database that is created by using Docker Compose, those database credentials will be configured in the application. Those database credentials will be available in the application. Got it. Now application will connect with the database. Now let me go and execute it. So here I have done git clone ls-l. You can see our Spring Boot MySQL Docker Compose project I have cloned. This project contains the source code as well as configuration properties. Go inside this project. Now ls-l. I'm in this project. So here first we need to build this project. To do the build, we will go for maven clean package, right? So here, before going to do that, let me show you some problem. cd space src /main/resources. In these resources, there is a file called application.yml file is available. vi application.yml. In this file, if you observe, this is called application configuration file. In this file, we are configuring data source properties, nothing but database properties. Now, for example, here instead of MySQL DB, I'm giving as just MyDB. MyDB :3306/sbms. Let me save this file :wq. My file is saved. Okay. Now let's come back from this folder. Now I have modified my database properties file. Now, if you see our Docker Compose YML, vi Docker Compose YML, here we have given the name. As MySQL DB. Now, in the application, we have given MyDB. So both names are matching or both names are not matching. Both are not matching. Right now, let us see what is the problem that we are going to face in this scenario. I want to show you the error and I want to tell you how to troubleshoot this problem. Are you guys clear, guys? Are you guys able to follow me? Wantedly, I am giving wrong configuration in the application YML. So here my database container name is MySQL DB. But in the application YML, what I configured the name as MyDB. Both are not matching. Then application can connect to the database or not. How to troubleshoot this issue? Let's understand. Okay, so in the interview, they will ask you, what are the common problems that you have faced while you are deploying the application by using Docker and Kubernetes? So let's understand those problems. Now, MVN clean package. I have modified properties file. When the code is modified or properties file is modified, we need to rebuild that MVN clean package. So project will be packaged. Clean package means it will delete the existing target folder and it will recompile the project and it will repackage the project. As it is a Spring Boot application, it created a jar file. That jar file is stored into this target directory. So with this, jar is created with the latest code. Now, I want to build Docker image. So to build the Docker image, we are using this command, Docker build -t image namespace dot, right? So I'm building a Docker image for this. Docker image is created. Once the Docker image is created, I want to run my container. For that, we are going to use an option called Docker compose up-d. So by using Docker compose file, I want to create the containers. In the compose file, we specified application container should be started by using this image. And the database container should be started using this image. Database container name, MySQL DB. Okay, let me execute it. Docker compose up-d. Now what they told, creating the network with the default driver, bridge driver, Spring Boot MySQL, Docker compose, Spring Boot database network got created, creating MySQL DB, creating MySQL container, and creating application container. Now let us go for Docker compose PS. When I go for Docker compose PS, you see here, database container state is up. It is up and running. Application container is failed. Application container, you can see what it is saying, guys. State is exit. So that means 2 containers started successfully or only 1 container started successfully. In this scenario, 2 containers started successfully or only 1 container started successfully. Only 1 container started successfully. Which container started successfully? Which container is failed to start? Which container started successfully? Which container failed to start? Here I'm using Docker compose PS. What is the purpose of Docker compose PS? Docker compose PS is used to display the list of containers that are available in our machine, the containers which are running. So here, if you observe, this is application container and this is database container. Application container status is exit. Database container status is up. Now, with this, what we understood, database container started, but application container not able to start. The reason, application container should connect with the database. It is not able to connect with the database. But so I'm saying that it is not able to connect with the database. But what is the proof? We need to check the logs. How to check the logs of the container? To check the logs of the container, we will go for Docker logs -f. Docker logs -f. Take the name of the container, give the container name. Now you see, when I give Docker logs -f container name, it is printing error message. So this is the container log. This is the container log. In this container log, we can see what is the problem. Can you see here? Java.net. Unknown host exception, MyDB, the name or service not known. Boss, in the project, database properties, it is having the database name as MyDB, but this container don't know what is MyDB. It is not able to understand what is MyDB. So as we have given wrong property, it is saying communication link failure. Could not obtain connection to query the metadata. Unknown host exception. I don't know what is MyDB. I don't know what is MyDB. So here application got the error. Application got the error. It is not able to connect with the database. Communication is failed. Why application Spring Boot application started? So when I create the container by using compose up, Spring Boot application started, but it got stopped in the middle. The reason, communication failure. Why the communication is failed here? Application container is trying to connect with the database container, but the database container name configured wrongly in the application YML. This is one of the common problem that we are going to face. Somebody saying MySQL did not start. Pradeep, you are wrong, man. MySQL started successfully. Application having the wrong configuration. So here, how we can troubleshoot when the container is not able to start? When the container is not able to start, we are going to see the issue by using Docker logs command. So what is the command I am using to check the container's status? Docker compose ps command. It is giving the list of containers. One container is up, database is up and running, but MySQL database container is running, but application container not running. How I am checking the logs? Observe clearly. Docker logs -f the name of the container, application container name, because problem with the application container. Check the logs of the application container. So when I execute that, we can see here now, whenever you see the issue communication failure, blindly you can understand that it is the communication problem because of incorrect service name we configured. Incorrect service name we configured. Are you able to follow me? So what is the issue we got? And do you know how to resolve this issue now? Do you know how to resolve this issue now? Guys, come on. How to resolve this issue? How to resolve this issue now? We got the problem. We are able to check the issue. We are able to check the log. It is saying that communication failure. What is the fix for this? We need to configure the correct database container name in the application.yml. Okay, go to cd src space src/main/resources. In the resources folder, we are having application.yml file. Go to that file, vi application.yml. Now here, MyDB is available. It is not MyDB, it is MySQL DB. What is the database name I have given here? MySQL DB. The database container name is MySQL DB. So application should connect with the MySQL database with the name MySQL DB. Correct it. Then save it and close it. Now come back. So here, if I recreate the container directly, will it consider, or I need to repackage and recreate the image also? I modified the code. Now, if I update in the YML, will it reflect? Will it restart that? Now I need to again repackage the project. MVN clean package. MVN clean package. Why? Because currently our YML file is available in the project. So now do you understand the problem? If you keep the configuration properties in the project, whenever there is a change in the configuration property, we need to repackage the whole project, and we need to recreate the image, and we need to recreate the container. So configuring the properties within the project is recommended, or it is not recommended? Configuring the properties within the project is recommended or not recommended? Why it is not recommended? Now do you understand the problem? Why we should not keep the properties within the project? Now do you understand the problem? If I make a small change in the project, I need to rebuild the project, and I need to rebuild the image, and I need to recreate the container. So a lot of things we need to do again and again. Now I have done the clean package, new jar is created. Now let's build the image. After building the image, now I am going for Docker compose up-d. Now in this scenario, is it going to create the two containers, or it will create only application container? Let us see Docker compose ps. Docker compose PS. DB container is already running. Now, when I execute Docker compose up-d, when I execute Docker compose up-d, will it create both containers again, or it will create only application container? It will create only application container. Why? DB container is already running. There are no changes in the image, but application image got changed. That's why the application container will be recreated. Docker compose up-d, execute. Now here, if you observe, when I execute the Docker compose up-d, what it is saying about the database? Is it recreating the database container, or it is saying that database container is up to date? You can see the log. When I execute a Docker compose up-d, it is saying that DB is up to date. No need to recreate the DB container. It is already running. The next one, recreating the application container. So when I execute a Docker compose up, so is it creating all the containers again, or it is creating the containers for which the image got changed? Docker is intelligent here. Whenever I execute Docker compose, in the Docker compose I have given containers information, application container information I have given, DB container information I have given. When I execute the compose up, it checked, is there any change in the MySQL image which is used? No change. So no need to create the container again, which is already available, up and running. Application image got changed. Earlier the properties file, earlier the YML having DB, now it is having MySQL DB. So host name changed, properties file changed, then image got changed. Then it has to recreate the container. So only application container got recreated, not both containers. Now let us check Docker compose PS command to verify the status. Docker compose PS command. Now can you see the status? After fixing the issue, can you see my application container is up and my database container is also up. My application container is up and my database container is also up. Are you able to understand how we are troubleshooting the issues? So now tell me, if a container is not started, then what you will do? Your container is not started, it is failed. Then what is the next step that you need to perform? Roll down on the floor and cry? Do we need to roll down on the floor and cry if the container is not started? We need to check the log files. How to check the log files? How to check the log files? Docker logs container name. Okay, guys. So in order to check the logs of the container, we can go for check container logs. Check container logs. So what is the command? Docker logs -f name of the container. Container name we have to provide. So what is the container name? So this is the container name. This is the container name. Okay. So by using this container name, we can check the logs. So this big name is available for the container. Copy the container name. Now let's check the application logs, application container logs. It is successfully started, but still check the log. Docker logs -f container name. Now can you see application started successfully? Last time there was a communication failure error, but now that error is not available. Application successfully started. It is running on the Tomcat server with the port number 8080. So this is application container log file. Application container log file. Close this. Understand my point? Right. Now, I want to troubleshoot my database, guys. I want to troubleshoot my database. Okay. Database is started as a container. Now I want to see really the database table is created or not. Really the database table is created or not. I want to get into the database and I want to see the table is created or not. The data is inserted in the table or not. Can we do that? Before that, let me access my application. So my application running on the port number 8080. It is mapped to host port 8080. Let's go to our EC2 machine, security group, edit the rules. enable the port number 8080, 8080 and anywhere IPv4. Save the rules. Now go to our EC2 instance. Instance is running. Go to this machine, copy the IP, go to this public IP colon 8080. When I go to public IP colon 8080, am I able to access my application? Am I able to access my application now? Guys, come on. Application is accessible. Is there any data available in the application? The data not available in the application? The data is not available in the application. Now go here, go here, go here. I want to get into the container. Do you remember how can we go inside the container and see the data? Can you tell me the command? Can you tell me the command? Which command I need to use to get into the container machine and see that? Docker exec. Perfect. We need to use a command called Docker exec. I want to get into DB container and I want to see really database tables are created or not. Okay. Now for that, we need to execute a command called Docker exec. Docker exec -it space container name. This is the name of the MySQL DB container /bin/bash. Oh, I entered into container. Now from this container, in this container only, MySQL database is running. How to connect it to the MySQL database? Right. To connect with the MySQL database, I will use a command MySQL -u username is root. Username is root and -p. It will ask for the password. My database password is also root. So with this, I'm able to connect with the MySQL database, which is installed in the container. Guys, observe the beauty. Here, I have created MySQL container. I created MySQL container. So when I create this MySQL container, so here guys, I created my MySQL container. So in this MySQL container is created right in the Docker machine. So MySQL is created inside a virtual machine. I connected to that virtual machine by using my Docker exec -it and MySQL database container name and bin bash. Then I connected to MySQL container machine. In that machine, MySQL database is running. How can I connect to the MySQL database? MySQL command. MySQL -u. Use -u represents username. -p represents password. The database username is root by default. Password I have given as root only. So I'm able to connect with this. In this MySQL database, I want to see what are the databases created. For that, we can execute a command called show databases. Now you can see the database is created with a name called SBMS. Where I configured this SBMS? This SBMS I configured in my application YML. That is the database name. So let us go for Docker Compose Git repository. In this Docker Compose Git repository, if you see the YML file, the database name I have given as SBMS. So this project I developed in my Spring Boot classes. So that's why I have given the database name as SBMS. SBMS means in our terminology, it is Spring Boot microservice. Now, application.yml, the database name I have given as SBMS, Spring Boot project with a MySQL database. So SBMS is the database name. I connected to the database and I see SBMS is the database name. Now use the database, use SBMS. I have selected the database. Once we select the database, show tables. What is the table available? Book table is available. Select star from book table. Select star from book table. Sorry. Select star from book table. Currently, any data available in the book table or the data is not available in the book table? Guys, currently the data is available in the book table. The data is not available in the book table. The data is not available in the book table. Now go to front end of our project. Go to our application. Insert one data. Insert one record. Let me insert as Spring Rod Johnson Book price is some 1,000. Okay, click on submit. One record is inserted. So that record is displaying in the application. Really, that record inserted into the database or not? Let's query the table. Select star from book. Can you see one record is inserted in the database? Like this, you should be able to troubleshoot. Then only you can fix the issues. So whatever the record that is inserting in the application, is it really storing in the database or not? I connected to the database container. I connected to the database by using MySQL command. I selected the database. I selected the table and I'm querying the table and I'm able to see that the data is inserted in the database table. Let me insert one more record here. Let me go for the record book name as the DevOps, author name, something like this, price some 2,000. Click on submit. One more record is inserted. Go to the database container and check it really data inserted or not. Yes, first book is a Spring, second book is a DevOps. The record is inserted to the database. So with this we can say our application is working successfully and application successfully connected to the database. Application is able to insert the data to the database table. We connected to the database table and we are able to query the table also in the background. In the container, I'm able to see this database. Beautiful, right? Beautiful, right? You understand how I connected to the container and how I connected to the database, how I am checking the data is inserted into table or not. Yes, perfect. Now I want to come out from the database. Exit. Now I disconnected from the database. Now I want to disconnect from the container. I can disconnect from the container. Similarly, can I connect it to application container and can I see the jar file is copied to the application container or not? Same thing. Docker exec -it space application container name space /bin/bash. Now I connected to the application container ls-l. Now can you see my jar file is copied to the application container machine? From my EC2 machine, I connected to application container machine. This application container is running in one Linux machine. Who created this Linux machine? Docker spin up this Linux machine when you run the container. In that container, you can see our jar file is copied. That is our Spring Boot MySQL.jar. The application is packaged as a jar. That jar is copied from our host machine to Docker container. Container nothing but one virtual box, which is created by our Docker engine. Now, do you understand how to check the logs of the container and how to connect to the container? Good. Now let me give the commands how I connected to MySQL database. Connect to DB container. What is the command? Docker exec -it DB container name -it DB container name /bin/bash to connect to that machine. Okay, guys. Now let me give this connected to DB container. Docker exec -it DB container name /bin/bash. Once we connected to the DB container, connected to the MySQL database. MySQL -u root and -p. It will ask for the password. Once it is done, show databases. Then use SBMS, our database name. Then select star from book. Show tables, use SBMS, you can say. Then you can say show tables. It will display the tables which are available. So these are the commands that I'm executing to connect with the database container. These are the commands I'm using to connect with the database container. Docker exec-it database container name. After connecting to the database container, I'm connecting to the database by using MySQL. This is the command. This is used to connect with the MySQL database. Connect with MySQL DB. Then display databases. Display databases available in MySQL. Display databases available in MySQL. So select a particular database. Select DB name. SBMS is our DB name. Show tables. Display tables created in database. Created in database. Now select star from book. So display table data. Display table data. Book is our table name. Book is our table name. We configure that in the application. So like this, we can connecting with the MySQL database. Right. Docker compose commands. Here I am using that. Connecting to the DB container. After your application is started, connecting to the DB container and executing this process we are doing. Let me give this in the working process. Application started. Once your application is started, access the application. Once your application is started, connect it to the DB container, connect with the MySQL database, display the databases available, use the database name, show the tables, select a star from the table name. Then after, exit from database by using exit command. Exit from container by using exit command. Like this. This is the working process to deploy Spring Boot application with MySQL using Docker Compose. I'm cloning the repository. I am going inside the project directory. I'm doing the clean package. I'm building the Docker image. I'm checking the images. I'm creating the containers. I'm checking the containers. Then I want to troubleshoot the issue. You can troubleshoot the issue by using check application container logs. Check app container logs. How to check the app container logs? Docker logs -f. You can give Docker logs container name. -f is used for live logs. -f means live logs. With somebody access our application, the live log will be displayed when you go for -f. That means log, whenever the application access, log will be printed. If you remove the -f, it will print the existing logs. Docker logs container name, app container name. So app container name means it will display the application container log files. Now I want to see the database is created or not, data is inserted or not. I'm going into the DB container. I'm connecting to with the MySQL DB using MySQL client. So as the database is installed in the container, MySQL client also will be installed. MySQL-u root-t. Display databases available in the MySQL. Select the database name. SBMS is our database name. Use the database. Display tables created in the database. Show tables. Select the table data. Select start from table name. These are database related queries, guys. MySQL queries. Okay. Exit from the database and exit from the container. These are the Docker Compose commands we are using. All right, guys. Now, if you observe in my application, if you see my application, localhost :8080. So there are two records inserted. Got it. Now what I will do is, I will come out from this machine. Now I came back to my Docker host machine. In the Docker host machine, Docker Compose PS. So if you see, database container is running and application container is running. Now I will go for Docker Compose down. What I am doing, guys? Docker Compose down I am using. So when I use Docker Compose down, what happened? It is stopping application container, database container, removing the application container, removing the database container, removing the network. So what is the purpose of Docker Compose down command? When I use Docker Compose down command, it is deleting everything. So now once I have deleted this, my application will not be accessible. It is gone. My application is not accessible because my containers are deleted. So containers deleted means application is down. Now I will recreate the containers. Let us see. I will recreate the container. How I will recreate the container? Docker compose up -d. I'm recreating my containers. See, again, it is creating the network. Again, it is creating the database. Again, it is creating the application. So earlier, there are two containers. I have used Docker compose down. When I use Docker compose down, what happened? The containers got deleted. Stop and deleted. Then I use Docker compose up -d. Then it is creating the network. It is creating database container. It is creating application container. Now go and access our application. I'm able to access my application, but can you see the previous data? Whatever the previous data I have inserted in the database, am I getting that data back or I am not getting that data back? Earlier I inserted two records, right? Spring record and DevOps record I inserted in the database. So when I insert the record in the database, am I able to get the data back or I'm not getting the data back? I lost my data. So now here, assume that people are using Facebook. Okay. If I delete the Facebook application container and if I recreate the container, can we say to the customers we lost the data? Can we say whenever we redeploy the application, can we say to the customer that we lost the data? From last 10 years, people are using Facebook. I created my Facebook account 10 years back. Still today, same account is available. That means Facebook application several times they have redeployed. But they lost the data or they are able to get the data back? They lost the data or they are able to get the data back? They are able to get the data back. But in our scenario, what is happened? Our application storing the data permanently or our application is not storing the data permanently? Is our application storing the data permanently or our application not storing the data permanently? Our application not storing the data permanently. Here we need to understand a concept called stateful containers and stateless containers. So by default, my Docker container is stateful container or stateless container. Docker containers are stateful containers or Docker containers are stateless containers. Docker containers are stateless containers. Okay, stateful containers, stateful versus stateless containers. Stateful versus stateless containers. So stateful containers and stateless containers. So can you tell me what is the meaning of stateless container and stateful container? Generic understanding. What is the difference between stateless containers and stateful container? Guys, what is the general difference between stateful container and stateless container? Stateless container. Data will not available after container got deleted. Data will not be available. Data will be deleted. Data will be deleted after container got deleted. That is called stateless container. Stateful container, data will be maintained permanently. Data will be maintained permanently. Now, Docker containers are stateless containers. This is by default. Docker containers are stateless containers by default. Right. In the above Spring Boot application, we are using MySQL DB to store the data. When we recreate containers, we lost our data. This is not accepted in real time. Are you clear? My application is having a database. My application storing the data in the database. After storing the data in the database, I have deleted my containers and I have recreated my containers. I lost my data. So can I tell to the customers, we lost your data? Will customers accept it? Can we say to the customers, we lost your data because we have recreated the container? No. Even if we deploy, after deploying the latest code, or if we recreate the containers, data should not be lost. Application should be able to maintain the previous data also. Even if we deploy the latest code, or if we recreate the containers, we should not lose our data. Are you guys clear? So to maintain the data permanently, we need to make our container as stateful container. To make the containers as stateful, we need to use Docker volumes. To make container as stateful, we need to use Docker volumes concept. So earlier, I have deployed my Spring Boot application. I have inserted 2 records in the application. Through application, I inserted 2 records. Those records are inserted into the database. After that, I have deleted my containers and I recreated the container. When I recreate the container, I'm not able to get my data back. I lost my old data. This is not accepted. Project should not lose the data. Data should remain permanently in the database. But by default, this Docker container is stateless container. So when the container is running, the data will be available. When the container is deleted, the data will be lost. But that is not good practice. Application should never lose the data. What I want is, even if my application is redeployed, even if my container is recreated, old data should remain same. Old data should be available. My application should maintain the data permanently. So here, I need to make my container as stateful container. Even if the container is recreated, we should not lose the data. How to make our container as a stateful container? To make a container as a stateful, we need to use Docker volumes concept. Are you guys clear with my point? So what is the purpose of Docker volumes? What is the purpose of Docker volumes? Why should we go for Docker volume concept, guys? Docker volumes. Docker volumes are used to store container data permanently. Docker volumes. Docker volumes are used to store container data. volumes are volumes are used for persisting the data that is generated by the container. Volumes are used to persist the data which which is generated by Docker container, which is generated by Docker container. So whatever the data that is generated by the container, I should be able to store that data permanently. That should be stored permanently. Now we have three types of volumes in the Docker. We have three types of volumes in Docker. What are those three types of volumes? First one is anonymous volume. Anonymous volume. Anonymous nothing but no name will be available. And the second one is named volume. Okay, so we'll have a name. And the third one is bind mounts. And the third one is bind mounts. So like this, there are three types of volumes available in the Docker. These volumes are used to persist the data which is generated by Docker container. We have three types of volumes in the Docker. First one is anonymous volume, second one is named volume, and third one is bind mount. Right. Now here, how we are going to create the volume, how we will check the volume, and that stuff we can understand. So here, if you go to this Docker machine, come out from the project, okay, ls-l, only my project is available. Let me go for Docker volume ls. Okay, now can you see in the machine, there are several local volumes are available. These are the names of the volumes. Okay, I want to create my own volume. For that, Docker volume create Ashok IT volume. Like this, we can create the volume name. Now, let me go for Docker volume ls. Now you see my volume also created. Are you guys able to understand how I am able to create the volume? Docker volume create. I'm able to create the value. Docker volume ls. I'm able to list the volumes which are available. Okay. If you want to delete all the Docker volumes, then you can go for Docker system prune --volumes. Docker system prune --volumes. Okay. Yes. Now I have deleted all the volumes which are not used. Right? If you want to delete the particular volume also, you can delete. Now create display Docker volumes. Display Docker volumes. What is the command for that? Docker volume ls. Create a Docker volume. Create a Docker volume. In order to create the Docker volume, we will go for Docker volume create volume name. You can give any name for that. You can go for Docker volume inspect. You can check what are the details available in that. Docker volume inspect. Inspect the Docker value. Inspect Docker value. You can delete that particular value. Delete, remove Docker volume. For that, we can use a command called, guys, when I'm writing hash, that means it is a comment. When I'm writing a $, that means it is a command. Remove the Docker volume. To remove the Docker volume rm, we will go for volume name. Then next one, if you want to delete all the volumes, then you can go for remove all the volumes. Remove all the volumes. For that, we will go for Docker system prune -values. So Docker volumes. Volumes are used to avoid the data loss. Volumes are used to persist the data which is generated by the Docker container. Volumes are used to avoid data loss. Volumes are used to avoid data loss. Using volume, we can make the container as stateful. Using volumes, we can make container as stateful container. That means even if the container is recreated, we should not lose the data. So for that, to make by default, Docker containers are stateless containers. Practically, we have seen that. When I recreate the container, I lost my data. When I recreate my container, I lost my data. I should not lose my data. For that, Docker provided a concept called volumes. Volumes are used to persist the data which is generated by Docker container. Volumes are used to avoid data loss. Using volumes, we can make a container as stateful container. Okay, we have three types of volumes in the Docker: anonymous volumes, named volumes, and bind mounts. Right. How to create the volume? How to check the volume? Volume ls, volume create, volume inspect, volume remove, prune values. Like this, we can use several values here. We can use several values here. Are you guys able to understand this? Are you guys able to understand this? Good. Yeah. So how to attach the volume to our Docker container, that we will discuss in the next session. So first I want you to practice this compose, troubleshoot, get into the database and see how it is creating, run the application, then insert the data, then delete the containers, then recreate the containers and see data is coming or not. See the data is coming or not. I want you to replicate whatever I have practiced in the class today, whatever I explained. I want you to practice everything in your machine. I have given the wrong database name and I deployed my container. I have seen the error in the log file, then I have corrected. Then I deployed my application and I inserted some data and I checked in the database, data is inserted or not. Yes. Then after inserting the data, I have deleted the containers by using down command. Then again, I have recreated my containers and I see I lost my data. So to avoid this data loss, we need to go for volumes concept. By using volumes, we can make our container as stateful container. So I want you to practice up to now. So in the next class, we will see how to make our container as stateful with the volume. And one more topic is there, that is the Docker Swarm topic is available. So can we have class tomorrow and can we finish the Docker? Guys, can we have the class tomorrow and can we finish the Docker? Yes. Okay. So tomorrow we have a class and tomorrow we'll complete our Docker topics. Okay. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow.